Let us discuss today about the muscles of mastication. Muscles of mastication are the muscles which are present in and around the infratemporal fossa. They are inserted onto the ramus of the mandible. They are all innervated by the mandibular nerve. The main function of this muscle is to move the temporomandibular joint during the mastication. So, this muscle are developed from the first pharyngeal arch. Now, what are the muscles of mastication? So, there are basically four muscles of mastication: temporalis muscle, masseter muscle, lateral pterygoid muscle, and the medial pterygoid muscle. So, let us see first muscle, that is the temporalis muscle. Now, this temporalis muscle will arise from the temporal fossa and also from the deep surface of the temporalis fascia. So, this is the origin of temporalis muscle. When you see the insertion, the muscle is going downwards and it is inserted onto the coronoid process of the ramus of the mandible. Along with that, some portion of the muscle is also inserted onto the anterior border of the ramus of the mandible. Now, supply of temporalis. So, temporalis is supplied by the deep temporal nerve. The branches are divided into anterior and posterior branches, and these branches are the nerves which are arising from the mandibular nerve. So, what is the action of temporalis? So, temporalis is basically pulling the mandible upwards. So, it will elevate the mandible. Okay. So, it is helpful in closing the open mouth. So, this will help in closing the mouth, and the posterior fibers, they will help in retraction. So, they will pull the mandibles backward. Okay. So, these are the actions of the temporalis muscle. Now, second muscle is the masseter muscle. So, masseter muscle is very thick muscle and it consists of three layers basically. There is a superficial layer which will basically arise from the zygomatic bone and the zygomatic arch. Then there is a middle layer which is arising mostly from the zygomatic arch, and then there is a deep layer which will arise from the deep surface of the zygomatic arch. Insertion. So, you can see here these are the layers of the masseter muscle. So, superficial fibers are basically inserted onto the angle and the lateral surface of the ramus of mandible, while middle fibers are mainly inserted onto the central part of the ramus of the mandible, and the deep fibers are inserted onto the upper part of the ramus and the coronoid process of the mandible. So, nerve supply of the masseter muscle is also from the mandibular nerve through its masseteric branch, which is a branch from the anterior division of the mandibular nerve. Okay. So, coming to the action, masseter is also helping in closing the open mouth, and its superficial fibers are helping in protrusion of the mandible. Now, in this photo you can see this is the temporalis muscle. There is this tendon of the temporalis muscle, and here this is the masseter muscle, and both of these are supplied by the mandibular nerve.